know this should be most interesting. It's obvious that Her Majesty is quite the tea fancier. If this blend is anything to go by, the fragrance, the temperature, the taste, I'd be hard-pressed to find fault with any of it. Let me see what the blend is here. Yorkshire Gold. I've always been more of a coffee man myself. I knew I didn't like you. But I have no doubt that I'd be content with a cup of this at my desk each morning. As much as I agree with you, I don't believe we're here to talk about beverages. Why not? Can we not carry on this conversation? It'd be awesome. So, shall we get right to the point? What did you want to discuss with me? I see your sojourn in Liberl has proven most fruitful. Pardon? When we last spoke, you struck me as a bright, flexible young man, and no doubt you still are. But now I see in you a resilient inner strength girding those aspects. I am sure His Majesty will be most delighted with your personal development. Meanwhile, I see you're the same fearless man I've always known you to be. More so, even. That crushing aura about you seems to have only grown with time. It's as if you feed on the resentment of those who live in the territories you annex. Such harsh words, Your Majesty. Personally, I prefer the term political unification. Annex can carry such negative connotations, you know. Since the end of the 100 Days' War, our army hasn't committed a single act of aggression. All our unifications have been entirely peaceful. You're quite right about that. On the surface. Oh? It's amazing how similar the annexation process is every single time it happens. It starts with a small nation or independent state with an array of problems beyond repair. Those problems start to worsen, after which Jaegers and other dangerous elements enter, plunging public order to an all-time low. Desperate for a solution, the local government requests the help of the Imperial Army. Before they know it, they're part of the Empire. Well, it's not as though I can deny what you're saying. Each instance does share certain commonalities. Still, it is to be expected, an inevitable consequence of the age of unchecked growth and progress in which we live. The Imperial Army is simply acting in the Empire's best interests, helping to stabilize our neighbors for the good of the Empire. And it's understandable that they would. I do find myself rather curious why Intelligence Division members are going to such nations with such peculiar frequency. Not before the problems I described worsen, no less. I won't press as to where you came by such information, as curious as I am, but I will say this. At its most basic level, these actions are about risk management. It's because we've been acting to minimize such risk beforehand that the army has been able to successfully quell each problem in turn, with the small price of earning the disdain of the people in those nations and an increased risk of terrorism in exchange. To tell you the truth, I'm rather astounded that you had the courage to come here to Liberl all on your own to begin with. After all, you've earned yourself the biggest target for terrorists in all of Erebonia. Your concern is touching, Your Highness, but I very much doubt I'm going to be standing like in the square and get shot. I'd ask that you not trouble yourself with my safety. I employ some very skilled subordinates tasked primarily with eliminating the risks of terrorist attacks against me. Really now, that Lecter is one of those, I assume? A rather peculiar fellow, isn't he? But a very useful one all the same. Working out the scheduling for this trip and taking all the necessary precautions to ward off terrorist threats were both his doing. And thanks to his commendable efforts, I can depart from Crossbell free from worries as soon as I finish my business here. Crossbell? Are you surprised? I'll be participating in a top-secret discussion with a representative of the Crossbelt government. Recently, a large amount of funding has been flowing into the country through Republican channels, putting our allies on the defensive. I'd always meant to visit at some point, and this seemed the perfect opportunity. Are you out of your mind? Crossbelt is full of enemies and different factions at each other's throats. It's now even a hotbed for terrorists and criminal organizations because of its position as a buffer state. Does that really sound like a place that the Erebonian Chancellor should be going even on an unofficial visit? I'm surprised to hear you advocating caution in the face of potential danger, Your Highness. After all, it was you who flew onto an ancient city, at great risk to your own safety, and returned unharmed after surveying it. Compared to such rousing risk-taking, my visit to Crossbelt will be child's play. As I'm sure you're aware, you're regarded as something of a hero back in Erebonia now. To see a hero make a grand return befitting his newly minted legend. And aboard the famous Arsay no less. Naturally, our hero has taken the time to ensure that every well-known newspaper and magazine are aware of his homecoming too. Oh, I have no doubt that your triumphant arrival will be every bit as glorious as it has played out in your imaginings, Your Highness. Do be sure to capitalize on this chance as best you can to build yourself a firm foothold. I expect great things from you after all. Oh, God, I love him. Triple dot. Wait. Screwy? Hey, buddy. You haven't changed a bit, huh? Screwy. Really? Sounds like a ton's happened, huh? It's nice to see you and your master are all doing alright. Screwy. Lecter? Well, good day to you, Your Highness. I pray I'm not causing any trouble by taking a tour of the castle like this. The view from this terrace certainly is beautiful, isn't it? What happened to you, Lecter? How did you end up working for Chancellor Osborne? I'm sorry, I haven't the faintest idea what you mean. Are you perchance mistaking me for someone else? Your name is Lech Terarundel. You were the student council president at Genis Royal Academy, which you attended before leaving suddenly 2 years ago. So no, I am not mistaking you for someone else. Ah, but that's where you're wrong. Because my name is actually Lech Terarundel. Really? That's what you're going with? I can certainly see how our names could become mixed up, however, they are scarily close. Still, now you know. Please just call me Lech. Don't try and joke around with me, Lecter. Do you have any idea how worried all of us were when you just disappeared without a word? You submitted your notice to leave the academy and then were never seen again. Even the otherwise calm Leo let out a cry of anger when he found out. That would have been interesting to see. And all Lucy could do was give a sad smile and say, "This is just like him." The whole time with tears in her eyes. Jill and Hearts were heartbroken, and so was I. Yet after all that, after all this time, you finally show yourself, knowing full well that I'm here, and this is how you act? By pretending you're someone else? I was gonna say, like, look who's talking. Yes. Lecter. Sorry, no need for the scary glare. You're still taking things way too seriously. Looks like it'll take more than stepping up as Crown Princess to change that part of you. Oh. But you know, seeing you makes me feel kind of relieved. I always figured if someone like you became Crown Princess, you'd have virtually no freedom to do anything other than work. But from all that's reached my ears, it sounds like you're actually doing alright for yourself. And you even made some great new friends after I left the academy, didn't you? Nice. I sure did. Nonetheless, it's thanks to you that I was able to change all that. You were the one who gave me the first push in the right direction. Never got the chance to thank you properly after you left. But all this time, I've always been grateful to you. Well, consider me honored. Do I get a kiss in return? You do not. I may feel respect towards you, but nothing romantic. Ah, that's a bummer. There was me all taken in by how pretty you'd become, wondering if this could be my start of something downright magical. And what happens instead? My dreams of romance and sweet smooches are crushed to nothing before they can ever begin. I know you don't mean a word of that, you know. You're looking very sharp yourself, though. It's surprising to see. Every time I've seen you before today, it was in that heavily frayed uniform worn in the most sloppily way imaginable. I think you'll find I was merely making a fashion statement. That wasn't laziness or sloppishness. Every part of it was carefully calculated and considered to have maximum effect. Scary thing is, I actually believe you. It's 'cause it's true. You always seemed as if you cared for nothing but having fun and causing trouble. Yet when it came down to it, you were wise beyond your years. And I've finally seen part of the reason behind that today. I'll ask you again, Lecter. How did you end up working for Chancellor Osborne like this? Just what happened to you between you submitting your notice to leave the Academy and now? That is something I would like to know. Do you now? Yes, I would. I have to admit, I never imagined that would be the case. On the contrary, I was expecting you to tell me to back off. Oh, Adios forbid. What reason would I have to suggest such a thing? After all, at the end of the day, our positions are functionally the same. I'm not sure I understand. Do you not think so? Personally, I find it difficult to believe that you would not harbor some hatred toward Erebonia as it is today. A grand empire clinging to the glories of a bygone era, ruled by the nobility and shackled by meaningless conventions. Am I wrong? People call me the Blood and Iron Chancellor, as though I hold the whole of Erebonia in the palm of my hand. But in reality, my position is far more tenuous. I have supporters and allies in the capital, certainly, but outside its walls, the nobility holds far more sway than any of them. And while it is true I hold a great amount of power in the form of the Imperial Army, even then I only truly command around 70% of it. The remainder is loyal to the nobility, who also maintain their own private armies. If those factored in, my advantage shrink substantially. So you see, I am still very much in the midst of a battle to truly exert control. Yeah, I wonder if that'll bubble over. Just notice, like, what his sprite has like white hair on the right side of his head, but his actual model sprite sitting on the seat, it's on the left. Odd. Which is why you're building railways all over the country to expand your area of influence. And you've been annexing new territory to the same end. As I've long thought, you clearly understand me better than anyone else. That is why I'll say this once again. Work with me, Your Highness. With your support, our nation will be able to bring about real reform faster than ever. The noble faction, bloated with its centuries of decadence, can be stopped before they even have the chance to unify against us. Surely that's what you desire more than anything. Let me just ask a simple question, Chancellor. What connection do you have with Ouroboros? I'm afraid I'm not quite sure what you're asking. I will say this, however. I'm a firm believer in using every resource at my disposal in the name of achieving reform. That's the way I believe in handling politics. I see. Well, it certainly does seem as though we would see eye to eye in many ways. And that's all the more reason why I'm afraid I must refuse your offer. Yeah, I'd say that's something I'd actually agree with. Olivert, however you want to say his name, is very similar to the Chancellor. It's just their sort of like ethics, their core being is slightly different. What they want, what the outcome for things is slightly different, but everything else about them is very, very similar. Is that so? Yes, I find it difficult to like the rotten noble faction that exists in the Empire. Or perhaps you're right that the hate is the more appropriate word. But my feelings of fear towards your methods are far greater than my feelings of hatred towards the nobles. What you seem to be doing is trying to compel Erebonians of a delusive utopia, to whip them into an enthusiastic frenzy. No doubt, by successfully convincing the people, the old guard will fall into the metaphorical firestorm created. And yet by then, the gears will have finally already begun turning. There will be no satisfying a roused populace with a thirst for revolution. The storm will just keep growing larger and more ravenous, engulfing anything and everything in its wake. You know this, don't you, Chancellor? But of course. After all, and that's what I intend to happen. It's the first stage of my reforms. Ooh, that face. I'd be more than happy to share further details with you if you were to decide to work with me, Your Highness. In the meantime, I wish you well in strengthening your foothold back in the Empire. Of course, if that's your intention, you'll find it a necessity to work with those nobles you so despise. You truly do see through everything, don't you? Well, that sounds like the noon bell. The airship should be arriving shortly. Which means it's time for me to take my leave, I'm afraid. I look forward to seeing you again in the capital in 2 weeks' time. God, I love him so much. I thought he was coming back and being like, hi. He didn't drink his tea. Well, I'll take it that the discussion's over then. What's wrong? You look awfully tired. Oh, nothing. I'm just feeling awed and new at what a monster I decided to pick a fight with. Indeed. Oopsie. I think it's probably about time for the airship to arrive. I'm gonna have to stop you there and get going. What? See you, Seek. Next time I see you, I'll bring you some Erebonian salami as a souvenir, okay? Scream. Wait, you planning to just disappear without telling me anything a second time? Oh, got an important question for you. Did you fall in love with someone while I was away? Hit the nail on the head, huh? That's so cute. First love, right? How's that feel? Heart all aflutter 1 minute, end of the world the next. Don't you dare start teasing me. But you're right though, I did. He rejected me in this very spot not that long ago. Wait, you're joking, right? There's a coincidence I didn't see coming. Not so sure about that. Feels like you know everything sometimes. I'm not some kind of all-knowing, all-seeing divinity, as far as you know. That's what makes the world so interesting to me. Head pats. Oh. I'm happy for you, Chloe. Knowing the pain of lost love is what makes a girl blossom, in my humble opinion. Do you feel like the whole experience let you get a step closer to the person you want to be? Well, what about you? Do you feel you're getting close to becoming the person that you want to be? By being at the Chancellor's side? Ooh. That's a question. Well done, Chloe. Kinda hard to do that when I don't have a person I want to be to begin with. I'm just sticking with him because it feels like it'll be fun. That's all. Yeah, sure. I've been doing it since before I joined the academy, in fact. You have? And that prince is proving surprisingly capable. But he still isn't a match for the Chancellor. Tell him to watch his back, alright? So that he doesn't get swallowed up by that monster after he gets tired of dancing. He did the wave! He did the wave! He did the wave! Goodbye, Lecter. He did the wave! Oh god, I'm glad there's still more. It's that sort of thing like, oh, don't end there. I want more. Thank you all for waiting. The Calabria International Airliner, bound for the Principality of Remiferia, will be departing momentarily. Please mind your footing when boarding. Ah, it's good to see them. Simply cannot wait to get back to the crossbow games. The crossbow games? Yep, that's what they're called. They're called steel games. So that was the Blood and Iron Chancellor. Can't believe he actually went out of his way to use a civilian airship, and he probably has a private one of his own. I've heard rumors about how out of the ordinary he is, but he lives up to all of them. He keeps me on my toes, to put it playfully enough. Him aside, thanks for coming all the way to see me off, Shera. I was lucky I just happened to have business here at the right time. Feels like it's going to be the last chance we get to see one another for a while, after all. Rather unfortunate, as my dream is and always was to live away my days in the lap of luxury, surrounded by women as beautiful as you. Well, good luck with that. Changing the subject though, who was the young man at the Chancellor's side? Didn't strike me as your ordinary guy. Oh, you could tell. But of course, I'd say I'm used to running into people who are out of the ordinary at this point. We've sure fought enough of them. His name's Lech Terarundel. He's a secretary who was sent here by the Imperial government. Apparently, he was the one who planned out all of the details of the Chancellor's visit to Liberl. Can't pretend to know much regarding his background, but he's exceptionally skilled at what he does. Actually, I know a little. Exclamations. What? Oh? Was that true? Yes. Claudia explained that Lecter once attended the same academy as her, and had served as its student council president. She also mentioned about his sudden disappearance after the academy festival 2 years ago. Unbelievable. Then, someone connected to the Chancellor had visited Liberl first. Then he's very likely to have had his own veritable information network established here long before I even came up with the idea. I think it's safe for us to assume that's the case, which also means that it's safe to assume he knows every detail about all that's happened here since. From the coup d'etat to the crisis regarding the Aureole. All of it. This man gets more unbelievable by the minute. He actually gave me a message to pass on to you earlier, too. Watch your back, so you don't get swallowed up by the monster when you're tired of dancing. He sure knows how to sting where it hurts, doesn't he? Feel like I can see a whole new world of pleasure opening before my eyes. We should know better. Getting outdone every turn like this is really not my style. What do you mean? Captain Schwartz, I have a little favor I'd like to ask you for when we're in the air. I'm rather impressed with how Prince Olivert has come along now. No matter how he chooses to act from here on, he will have his uses, to be certain. You would say that, given that you think of everyone as your pawns. There's me, the prince, that's society. Indeed. And I am much the same. You are but pawns of the vast game board that is the Empire, where a thrill like no other will take place. It's because of you, too. But it's because you, too, wish to see how the game plays out that you've chosen to stand with me, is it not? Oh, hey. What can I say? Just don't forget that this piece right here might not be loyal forever. And such a betrayal would be perfectly fine by me. Or did you honestly think I'd never considered the possibility it may happen? Just thought I'd come out and say it. How are the other Ironbloods doing, by the way? Is that the first mention of the Ironbloods? They're all doing very well, by the sound of it. At the rate things are going, there's a chance all of the prince's efforts will be for naught. Perhaps I ought to hold back on him a little. Sure don't pull any punches, do you? You know something? Wouldn't write him off so easily if I were in your shoes. What? What? It's got flowers. These look like rose petals. If you look out the windows on the right-hand side of the airship, you will be able to see the famous high-speed cruiser, the Arcee. Been informed that this is on its way to the Imperial capital with Prince Olivert on the Ereboni Empire on board, but he has also given us a message to relay to all of the passengers on board today. I give thanks to Adios for the good fortune to have been able to meet you today. May your journey be filled with beautiful roses and her blessings. And of course, may your journey to your homes be a safe and a pleasant one. That marks the end of his message. Triple dot. Never thought there was a bigger dumbass in this world than me. And yet, here we are. Very well, debaucherous prince. I look forward to seeing what you can do. Show me how long you can hold out against me. Side story. Return to the Empire finished. Divine Eye. Well, I think it's safe to say, I fucking loved that. That was awesome. That's my favorite door yet. That is absolutely my favorite door yet. I adored that. It was so fun. I loved it. I loved it so much. I want to do it again, but that would be weird. That's us done for this part. We'll see you in the next part. Ta-ta for now.